Welcome to Through the Rabbit Hole, where curiosity leads us to the unexpected. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that will challenge what you think you know about the NHS. So grab your favorite snack, settle in as we take you through the rabbit hole.
Hello everyone, I am Storm, I'm with Scottish Lesbians, I am with OG Bubs and our new member which is Scorpio, and we are Through the Rabbit Hole. On this channel we give you unfiltered truths about different subjects that we find online and in the media. Now we all know that we are not being told the truth about different subjects, so we have been doing different researches and digging up deep in order to find the truth so we can give it to all of you.
Okay, so a lot of the videos that I've found is just about the deep-seated neglect that a lot of us seem to be talking about but not actually doing anything about. So I just basically wanted to bring it to the forefront so we could all talk about it, let you see what's going on, and then maybe getting everybody's opinion and see if there's anything that maybe we can do about it.
This is the jaw-dropping moment NHS nurses braid each other's hair as a young patient took his own life. An inquest heard how 20-year-old Bren McFarlane should have been under constant observation but died 4 days after being admitted to a mental health facility in Blackpool. The CCTV shown to the inquest shows nurses vaping and braiding their hair as they neglect their duties. Bren's mum, Gail Rawlinson, broke down in tears as she saw the footage for the first time during the inquest.
You see, this is a scary thing. I mean, you've got people like this, right, just sitting around, not caring, and then someone lost their life. Is this really the NHS? You know, some of these nurses and stuff that just don't care about their patients. They'd much rather braid each other's hair and vape and talk and all the rest of it. I mean, really, what's the world coming to?
So, honestly, it doesn't surprise me to see that, just because we've been seeing the news stories. We've been seeing for years the news stories and the things that have been posted online, and it just reminds me, like, in a previous lifetime where I opened up the news and I read in the newspaper that a 14-year-old became paralyzed from the waist down because the medical staff ignored her and left an epidural in for so long that they ended up being paralyzed from the waist down. They only went in for gallbladder surgery and came out paralyzed. And so, it kind of, for me, it seems like back in the day was like the start of it, the start of the decline in the services that we're seeing, and now it's the extreme.
Yeah, I just find it baffling how he managed to do that in the first place, considering one, it's a mental health unit, two, he was already suicidal. He should have been put on the suicide watch firstly, and anything removed from him that could potentially cause him harm. So that clearly generally wasn't done.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Scottish. I mean, they are supposed to be there to look after their patients, but I mean, obviously in the video they're not.
But it also begs the question, this was caught on CCTV. Who was manning the CCTV operation room in the security office for them not to be raising the alarm that on CCTV you've got nurses who are not doing their job? Security are the people who get called not only when there is, a punch up in the ER, but they're also there for the disturbed patients.
If you take hospitals generally, I can't comment, but I can give you an example of a few years ago when Nan had shingles and she went into Heartlands Hospital, which is not far away from where I live. And she's getting on, she was 80 something or other, can't think of her, maybe 80, 85, 86, maybe older than that. She went in for shingles, and the nurses in the hospital should be looking after her. And what we found that when we went to visit her in the mornings, we went every morning to visit her, they weren't feeding her properly. And like the clip that we just seen, they were in the staff room doing their own thing. Why weren't the nurses looking after the patients and giving them what they needed? You know, you've got an 80-year-old woman that can't walk around. She's got an infectious disease, and they weren't looking after her. You know, it's just not good enough, is it really?
Unfortunately, this is not the first time I've heard something like this. As someone who's worked in the care system for 24 years, I've seen a lot of neglect in that way. Patients not getting fed properly, looked after properly. And I don't know why people treat people that way. I have seen myself complain numerous times to management about these things and get confronted with literally nothing. They'll still be allowed to work there. We had to go as far as contact Care Commission to actually even get one senior removed and struck off. Mm-hmm. She was so aggressive and so just horrible to this woman at end of life care. I don't even it baffles me that someone could actually behave that way. Yeah. So we actually went as far as had her struck off. She'll never be allowed to work in care ever again.
Good.
Done it to a care home too.
I think they should also be fined heavily for the lack of care, because they are paid there. They are paid a wage to look after people, and if they can't look after people or do it properly, they shouldn't be there.
I agree. And they didn't. And that's why I contacted Care Commission and got a care home closed down. Because of the neglect of the elderly. It's everywhere. And I don't know. People are horrible sometimes. Especially to the vulnerable, I've noticed.
Yeah.
I think it's because they think they can get away with it when it's vulnerable people.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to jump in real quick and just say, right, if you've got anything you wanted to add to the discussion, then please drop it in the comments section, because this is a subject that affects every single one of us. So honestly, if you can just drop it in the comments, that'd be great, and we will read your comment and we'll answer every single question.
Well, I just wanted to say real quick, sorry, that just to bear in mind as well, it's not all nurses, it's not all carers. There's some absolutely wonderful carers and doctors and nurses. It's just there's a fair few bad ones too, and that's the problem.
A pensioner who was left in excruciating pain has told how he had to dial 999 from his own hospital bed for help. In one of the most harrowing examples of the crisis in the NHS, Martin Wild was admitted to Salford Royal Hospital last year. After developing a spinal infection following a private operation, the 73-year-old was denied pain relief because of staff shortages, and even left lying in his own urine during his horrifying 8-month stay in hospital. He claimed other patients nearby were also shouting and screaming for help. At one point, Mr. Wild, who also has Parkinson's, told his wife, "If I am going to die in this hospital, let it be soon." A doctor who assessed Mr. Wild described him as being the most neglected patient I have ever seen. An investigation by the Northern Care Alliance and NHS Foundation Trust, which runs the hospital, found his care caused him serious harm and apologized for its failings.
Okay, that video actually broke my heart.
Yeah, how does that happen? You know, how do you have to phone an ambulance from inside of the hospital? Make that make sense. That's huge neglect.
When I had to go into hospital with a blood clot and an internal problem, there was a guy opposite me. I arrived late at night, and I think there was just a skeleton of staff there. And the guy opposite looked at me and I looked at him and we smiled at each other. And he says, "Can you give me some water?" And I said, "No, I can't do that, because the nurse is looking after you." But he was asking me, can I give him some water? And I said, "No, I can't do that." A nurse did come over to him and said, "We've been told that you can't have water because of your diagnosis." And she talked to him for a bit and then she left. And he kept on saying to me, "Can I have some water, please? Can you help me out?" And I felt a little bit guilty that I wasn't doing anything. But I thought, well, if I do anything, it could harm the guy opposite, So I wouldn't do anything. And a nurse did come in and she did talk to him and he talked to her. But it was almost like an argument, really, rather than sort of sympathetic talking and trying to calm him down. And this went on for quite a while, really. And throughout the night, he seemed to get really anxious. And I think at one point he did call 999 and say to them, "Look, I'm in hospital and I need a drink because I'm very, very thirsty. Can you get somebody to come in and give me some water?" And shortly after that, a nurse came back in and said, "No, we've told you that you can't have any water." To cut a long story short, that night he passed away. And his mother was called, or one of his family was called in. And it was quite upsetting, really, to see a guy that I hadn't known for just a few minutes, an hour, possibly more, start out conscious and then become slowly unconscious and then die. It was quite traumatic. It was quite emotional for me.
I was just going to say the question I had was, it would take a long time for dehydration to cause that. So I would ask the question, how long have you actually been depriving him of water?
If I can answer the question, I mean, I don't know what he was in there for. And the thing is, when you go into a ward, and of course, the nurses are there to look after you, aren't they? So yeah. The thing is, you can't intervene with somebody else's treatment because you don't know what they're in for. And if you help that person, it could harm them more than help them. Hopefully you leave it up to the nurse to do what they need to do. And to me, it sounded very drastic that the guy was, basically asking for something that he couldn't have. And at the end of the day, he just didn't survive,
Yeah, I find it very bizarre because usually they'll do that to you, make you nil by mouth if you're going for an operation or something. But even when they do that, it's only for a certain amount of hours and you can usually take sips of water in between. So yeah. I'm very confused why they made him go completely without.
So okay guys, so we're going to take a quick break, but I hope you enjoy the track Emotional Mess by Amy Lynn and the Honeymen.
Doing crazy dreaming.
Okay guys, we're back with part 2. So I'll kick it off by just playing the next video.
A stark warning from the healthcare watchdog. Increased action is needed to improve maternity services across the country. The Care Quality Commission's report found that out of 131 units inspected, almost half were rated inadequate or in need of substantial improvement. It also highlighted that many failings identified in recent high-profile investigations into NHS maternity services were more widespread than previously thought. The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, says that it's one of the biggest issues that keeps him awake at night, and that report into the failings is a cause for national shame. Faye Barker reports.
Failings in NHS maternity care have been the subject of reports, inquiries and investigations as a number of hospital trusts have been scrutinised. But today, a warning from the Care Quality Commission that poor NHS maternity care will become normalised if action isn't taken.
Your baby is dead and you just want help. You just want this to not happen to anyone else.
Sarah and Jack Hawkins' daughter Harriet was stillborn in 2016. The care they had at Nottingham City Hospital tragically let them down.
I was a low-risk, healthy pregnancy. I was left in labour for 6 days. I wasn't listened to, I wasn't heard. When I finally got admitted, the scanning said that Harriet was dead inside me.
There are fears that failings at scandal-hit hospitals are becoming more widespread. Of the 131 maternity units inspected, almost half were rated either inadequate or requires improvement. Only 4% were classed as outstanding. On safety, 65% were found to be failing, with none rated outstanding in this area. The Care Quality Commission says the findings should prompt a call to action.
It is a shocking report. There's some very hard truths in the report. What we're saying is that there is a collection of concerns that are impacting services across the country, and that's why we need national action to improve this, but we need to improve it quickly. What I would also say though is we've also seen examples of really good care, and that's not to take away from that, but clearly we need that to be replicated so that everyone is receiving good care all the time.
The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, says the findings are a cause for national shame. And speaking yesterday, he had this admission.
It is one of the biggest issues that keeps me awake at night, worrying about the quality of care being delivered today and the risk of disaster greeting women in labour tomorrow.
And he's not the only one.
Believe me, it keeps us awake at night too. I want to see in the planning for improving the NHS maternity front and central to that improvement, and that there is a real focus on increasing the staffing. The environment is really poor. What are they going to do in terms of capital investment? But most of all, how are they going to listen to women and listen to staff so that they have a constant way of making sure that they're getting it right?
For those needing these services, change can't come soon enough. Faye Barker, ITV News.
Okay, well, it's a lot to do with the staffing, I think, with the maternity unit. When I was pregnant with my second child, I was in labour for 36 hours before I was given a C-section. So the woman who was performing my surgery, she had been there with me for 36 hours. During the surgery itself, a lot of stuff went wrong, and I blame the fact that she was exhausted. They took me into the operating room and they started performing the C-section. She had been at it that long, the spinal that I had started wearing off, and my legs started moving on the operating table, and they got very erratic and started shouting about wanting to put me to sleep, and I was telling them, well, no, that's not going to happen. But even though my legs were moving, I still was very numb. They had gotten my child out of me quite safely finally, and then I don't know what happened. I think I bled out in some way. There was a young girl who seemed very distraught. She was helping the surgeon. She had to go take a seat, but before she even got to the chair, bless her heart, she collapsed on the floor. They had to contact the on-call surgeon, to actually come in the end. And don't get me wrong, once she got there, she was a guardian angel. I do believe that she saved my life that day. And I do honestly believe that that surgeon who was doing it should never have been there for as long as she was.
So I think that is absolutely horrific that you went through that.
Well, I was never offered any counselling. I was traumatized. I mean, I was so traumatized after that. For 2 weeks, I was having nightmares about being wheeled back in surgery, you know, and screaming, no, don't do this to me, kind of thing. And I was never ever offered any kind of help after that.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, it is not just maternity as a whole, because we know that the statistics around different ethnicities as well are going to be receive different types of care, which we've seen both dramatized, but the statistics bear it out as well. For instance, people of colour tend to fare worse in like maternity. However, what I would point out is some of these places are really old and they're not ideally located. And I mean, I just remember when I lived in London, there's a maternity hospital, and I kid you not, this is such an old building because the hospital used to be part of what was next door before it became its own independent hospital. And what was next door is a bloody great big prison. And where the maternity was, is like, oh great, you're having a baby. You look out the window and you see prisoners in the yard. Yay! Just what you want when you're, bringing your first child into the world. And it's this thing of these hospitals that we have a lack of staff, we have a lack of hospitals, we have a lack of decent staff. And going back to the very first video, we've got staff sitting around vaping and braiding hair. How the hell do we expect our maternity wards to get any better if we've not got the staff, not got the right buildings, not got the right equipment, and not having the right training?
So, Scorpio, do you want to add anything?
Well, I don't know much about maternity wards. But I can give you an example of my niece that went in on her first child, and they were saying to her, don't worry about anything. She didn't live too far away from the hospital. And they were saying, don't worry about things. And she said, well, okay, I won't worry about it. And she finally had to go into hospital and have a C-section because she wanted a normal birth. And they said, yeah, you can have a normal birth, but they weren't doing the right things and she didn't have the right support. And finally, she did have a C-section and caused her to stay in hospital, I think, for at least 2 or 3 days. And she was bleeding quite heavily and she was quite poorly afterwards. I mean, I don't know what she said to the hospital, but no, I mean, it's not good, is it really, when you've got people that need to have support and they need to have proper doctors there and proper midwives or proper nurses that know what they're doing, and they don't know what they're doing.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I had a wonderful midwife. She was really, really lovely. I mean, I couldn't fault her. I just think they were run down and understaffed, and a lot of things went wrong because of it,
Yes, which shouldn't happen.
I mean, the young girl who collapsed on the floor, she actually came to my room to check if I was okay afterwards. And I was kind of like to her, are you okay? It wasn't her fault. I mean, it was just a very unfortunate set of events.
Yeah.
I'm the same as Scorpio. I mean, I really haven't got much to say on the subject because everyone in my family, had an okay birth and, the mothers were okay as well. But I do hear stories about people who have, gone through this procedure it's been a really, really stressful time for them, you know, and it not just for the mothers and children, but also for the fathers as well, you know, and it's quite sad and terrifying at the same time, you know. So we'll leave the video here, and I would leave it to the panel to tell you their final thoughts. My final thought on the NHS subject is that we spend most of our life dealing with the NHS at some point in our lives anyway, right? And we do actually rely on this service, you know, to keep us fit, to keep us healthy, you know, and even to save our lives, right? But looking at the videos about what's going on, you know, today in this world where, you know, we just can't, it just seems like we can't rely on them at the moment, and that is terrifying, you know, that is terrifying, right? But I'll leave you with the panel now to tell you their final thoughts.
It is not funding as such. I think it is training. I think that doctors should be neutral in their approach to their patient. And I know from experience that doctors can be prejudiced. And they shouldn't be. They should be neutral and they should treat their patients equally.
So for me, I personally think it is that situation where I do agree. I think there is a funding issue because we don't have nearly enough mental health services. We don't have nearly enough maternity wards. We don't have nearly enough anything, really. I mean, you just have to look at the limited amount of therapy you can get on the NHS before they say you have to wait 6 months and hope that you don't get worse because in that 6 months while you're waiting to be referred back. I think there is that element that we need the bias to be removed, just because, you know, the disparities between different protected characteristics of patients who are getting treatment and care is just absolutely disgusting. And we also need to take accountability for ourselves as well, because realistically, doctors don't just switch off overnight. Doctors don't just go from good doctors to bad doctors, and bad doctors don't get away with things for as long as they have been without our complacency. And our complacency is when you have that negative experience going, I don't want to cause a fuss, I'll just make sure I'm never with that doctor again. It's all fine and good you saying you're not going to be with that doctor again, but that doctor has still got away with it without a complaint on his file or her file. So I think we need to end the patient complacency and actually hold the bad medical professionals to account, whether that's going to the Ombudsman, complaining to practice managers, complaining to the Care Commission. We need to end that complacency.
No, I agree with Babs. It's all messed up, and the fact that it's been going on this long unnoticed, and I think the reason that's been going on is because in today's world it's getting worse, so much worse, and there seems to be so little empathy for each other, and that baffles me. But one thing I will say is for everybody to go get your medical records. Have a look at your medical records, because your doctors say stuff about you on that medical records, and it also has an effect on how other medical professionals see you. And I only found that out today, so I would suggest everybody does that and have a look to see what they say about you.
So I'd like to thank everyone for watching. I am Storm.
Scottish Lesbians.
OG Babs.
Scorpio.
And we are so interested in hearing your views, your comments, you know, about this subject, because it's going to affect you as well. So please put it down in the comment section. We will read every single comment, and if we can answer any question that you give us, we'll do it as honest and as open as we possibly can. Right, so I want to say thank you for watching, right, and I'm going to leave you with this track from Sheil, and it's Anywhere You Say. Take care, everyone.